I've been backpacking for many years, including the Colorado Trail, Continental Divide Trail, John Muir Trail, Long Trail, and most of Colorado's 14ers. In that period of time, I've received quite a lot of advice from other people. Some of it has been great, and it has made me a better, stronger hiker. But quite frankly, some pieces of advice have been terrible, and that is what I want to talk to you about today. Hi, I'm Katie, aka Double Dip, and let's go over the worst pieces of hiking advice I've ever received so that you don't have to make the same mistakes on trail that I have. Before we jump into it, if you're through hiking in 2026 and you're interested in being a blogger or a vlogger for the trek, head down to the description where I'll drop a link for you to apply, and I think you totally should. I want to start with a terrible piece of advice that I myself have been guilty of giving to other people. And that is that you don't have to train for a thru hike or for a long backpacking trip. There's this very pervasive idea out there that the best training for a hike is just by starting the hike. And along the way, as long as you start slow, you'll gain the muscle and the cardio needed to keep going. For some people, this works great, but this mentality also ignores the sheer strain that you're placing on your tendons and your bones as you start a backpacking trip or a thru hike, even if you are starting with slower days. Spending some dedicated time before your hike, getting your body prepared for that strain, whether that be backpacking with weight on your back or starting to run or doing some lifting, is really going to help prevent injuries for you when you do finally start the trail. And it's going to make the time a lot less miserable. Your body will be so thankful every morning when you wake up that you had a little preparation going into it. If someone tells you not to train for your thru hike, I think you should hear it this way. You don't have to train for your thru hike, but it is something you can do to maximize your chance of success. The next piece of advice is pretty controversial, and I can imagine that some of you already know where this is going, but I hate when people insist that I need to bring a firearm with me on a thru hike. And we'll start with the most basic reason why, and that is because I don't know how to use one. For me to go get everything that I would need to start a trail with a firearm and keep it clean and dry and effective through the trail would be an incredibly tedious, expensive, time-consuming activity before my hike. Not only would preparing to bring a firearm on a thru hike be an incredibly expensive, tedious journey for me before the hike, but I don't think it's that effective, especially in the hands of someone like me, who again, can't shoot. If you're doing a hike that passes through multiple states, the different local regulations on how you can, if you can, carry a firearm are so wildly different. And personally, that's just not something I want to deal with on a thru hike. Again, because there's no benefit to me, because I can't shoot. It's frustrating to explain this to people and still have them insist that I must carry a firearm with me. I have never felt unsafe on a thru hike in a way that having a firearm would have mitigated. And again, I cannot stress this enough. It would be so dangerous for me and everyone else around me on the trail if I had a firearm because I do not know how to properly store it, carry it, or use it over the span of thousands of miles. And this might be a silly reason, but firearms are incredibly heavy, and most of my gear is light, and I like to keep it that way. And why would I need one to protect myself when I've got these weapons on me at all times? Next up, let's talk about hiking styles. At the end of the day, I really think people just want you to validate the choices they've made. And I see this especially when it comes to alternates. I can't tell you, especially on the Continental Divide Trail, how many people have very strong opinions on the right way to go, the right time of year to go, the right trail to go on. Everything about your hiking style, people think there's a right way to do it, and here's a shocker. It's usually the way they did it. I do understand that urge. I do think that there are alternates and routes I took on the CDT that in my heart of hearts, I believe to be the best way to hike that trail. However, you're out here to be independent. You're out here to make your own journey, and there's so much joy in deciding which way to go because it's the way you want to go. Don't ever let someone make you feel guilty about taking a path that they deem as wrong or worse, especially if it's the path that you want to take. No two people are going to have the same experience on a trail, and something that someone has hyped up as being really great might not be that great in a different time of year, in a different year altogether. I know the phrase hike your own hike is a little bit overplayed, but it's pretty true. Hike your own hike and be happy with the path that you chose. This next one is a piece of advice I received a lot when I first started backpacking, and it's something I still hear told to beginner backpackers today. People love to tell people to not overpack for their first trip, but they don't ever really explain what that means. I think overpacking for your first trip is inevitable. It's a canon event. Everyone has to go through it. If you want, you can follow someone's online packing list, hit your first trail with a sub 10-pound base weight, and you probably will be fine, but you miss out on that experience of choosing for yourself the gear that you want to bring with you. On my first backpacking trip, I carried so much stupid stuff, and it was actually really wonderful at the end of that trip to look at what I didn't use and decide to leave that behind. Today, I still backpack with a lot of stupid stuff, but it's things that I use every day and that bring me joy. I backpack with a stuffed animal and sweatpants and a sleeping pad inflator and plenty of things that ultralight hikers will tell you that you don't need. And they're right, you don't need them, but I have the experience to know that I like having those things with me. My advice would be embrace the rite of passage that is overpacking on your first backpacking trip. Go, enjoy the trail, complain about how much your back hurts, really use all of the gear that you want to use. And then when you get home, empty your bag, look at what you didn't use, and don't bring that next time. Rinse, repeat over hundreds of trails, you're going to have the perfect dialed-in gear setup that is right for you. While we're on the subject of gear, let's talk about some advice that I am guilty of giving myself. Once you tell anyone that you're considering getting some new gear, they're going to have a lot of thoughts on what you should and shouldn't get. However, gear is so personal and so expensive, and most of the time, you don't need that newest, lightest, most expensive tent. I've done so many hikes in my running shorts from high school and a backpack that I found at Goodwill. Anything that gets you out into the backcountry and out onto a trail safely is great. Often, when you're reading gear reviews online, the person reviewing it received that piece of gear for free in exchange for the review. Even when they're giving their most honest opinion on it, they're going to be a little bit clouded by the fact that they didn't confront the price tag of the gear. If you want to spend a lot of money and make a hobby out of collecting these very high-tech, high-end pieces of gear, more power to you. It's very fun, but you don't have to. I don't ever want to make you think that you can't get out into the backcountry unless you have the newest, lightest gear. Oftentimes, whatever you have in your closet is going to work just fine. And while we're in your closet, let's talk about some of the shirts you have in there. You may have heard the advice that cotton kills, and I know I've heard it too. People will tell you that you should not head out into the backcountry with a single scrap of cotton anywhere on your body. And that advice is well-intentioned, but misses a lot of nuance. The advice is built on solid science. When cotton gets wet, it loses all insulating abilities. And if you're in a colder climate and you have cotton, especially against your skin, it can contribute to rapid heat loss and, worst case, hypothermia. So yes, cotton is generally not recommended on these high alpine mountaineering adventures or anything in a colder, wetter, rainier environment. But here's where the advice is terrible. This insistence that cotton is a death trap and you should never have it anywhere in your hiking wardrobe. If you're hiking something like the Appalachian Trail in the dead of summer, a cotton shirt might be the best option. It's cheap, it's breathable, and sometimes you want the air to feel cooler against your skin. Sometimes it feels like the slogan "cotton kills" has been weaponized by a gear snob trying to shame you for wearing a $10 cotton t-shirt and justify their $98 merino wool base layer, even when the risk of hypothermia is near zero. Your hiking wardrobe should be built around smart risk assessment. Don't let someone scare you away from wearing your cotton t-shirt. Just know the why behind the rule and make smart choices depending on the trail and the conditions you're in. Now let's talk about something less fun. Injury. It's very rare to hike a long distance and never be confronted with an injury. And when you feel that first twinge, you might hear someone tell you, "Oh, as long as you can walk on it, you can hike on it. Just take an ibuprofen, keep pushing, you'll be fine." This is some of the most destructive advice you can give. If you force past the beginning of an overuse injury, you can take something that might be very manageable with a day off in town and some stretches and turn it into something that ends your entire hiking season. Pushing through pain might save you the frustration of taking a day or 2 or 3 off in town, but it easily could lead to a stress fracture, chronic tendinitis, or pain so bad that you just don't want to keep hiking anymore. The best advice I've ever gotten from a physical therapist is this: if the pain is bad enough to change your gait, stop. Just stop. A day off in town is always better than an evacuation on trail. Okay, that was 7 of the worst pieces of hiking advice I've ever received. And if we look back at them, the mandate against cotton, trying to get me to bring a firearm on trail, trying to restrict the packing of a first-time backpacker, it all follows the same miserable format. The worst advice you can receive might not be factually wrong, it will just lack context and empathy about the fact that you're hiking your own hike and having your own journey. It essentially boils down to do it the way I did it or you're doing it wrong. People will take their own single successful journey and turn it into this universal rule, failing to realize that you might be hiking a different trail in a different time of year for different reasons and find fulfillment in different places. They're projecting their own risk assessment and obsession with gear onto you, which is fair to no one. If I could be so bold, I want to leave you with one piece of advice, and in the spirit of this video, feel free to ignore it if you want to. I think that you should feel secure in your own hike and never let anybody make you feel ashamed for the journey that you took. Your own sense of fulfillment, your own fun on trail, the experience that you are seeking, that's the only thing that matters. And that includes your comfort and safety as well. Have you ever given any of these pieces of advice to someone? If you have, let us know how that went in the comments, and let us know the worst piece of hiking advice you've ever received. For more videos like this, make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'm Katie, aka Double Dip, and I hope to see you out there.